Surprise! It's a Rebel Moon space opera workshopped it. I know I said I was going to get to it, but it's been so long since I did my Rebel Moon Part 1 review and my Rebel Moon Part 2 review. I bet you guys thought I had just like shuffled it off of the docket. An obvious thing, Rebel Moon, just like Zack Snyder's Justice League, suffers from being like an ensemble cast, or we don't get to meet the cast before they're an ensemble. The pretty obvious, easy way to fix these Rebel Moon movies would be to give each one of these characters their own introductory movie before we dive into the events of Rebel Moon. And I'm going to quickly pitch that here because it's obvious and it feels like I need to say it. And I'd actually start here with Belisarius. We would have him going from planet to planet, destroying everything. We get to see the scene where he meets Korra and decides to let her live. And then we get to see him like raising Korra and that kind of stuff. Give us a little insight into Korra and Belisarius' relationship, and it might give us a little bit of an idea about Belisarius' like headspace, where he's coming from, how evil he is or isn't. Then we do Tarek's story, whatever the heck that is, being Prince on a Griffin planet. I don't know, we really don't get a lot of flavor text with him, but I do think it would be fun to see like a little kid growing up with a Griffin, maybe like him and his mother drilling in this necessity for him to live so his people have a symbol of hope, and like getting more of that like human Griffin relationship, because that's like the most interesting part of his character. Beastmaster element we don't really get to see. Possibly we can see him fleeing his own planet, going someplace else with his Griffin. I think I'd probably change his story a little bit so he doesn't end up like being a slave, and so that when he joins the group he doesn't abandon his Griffin. Then I'd move into Nemesis's story. We get a little taste of what her life was like before, and like exactly what she lost and what she chose to sacrifice for her revenge. Then I would do Korra just out of the academy. We witness her losing her first love, witness her going to meet the princess as like jaded and kind of depressed, and like her coming back to life. And we probably see her all the way through the princess's attempted assassination, her crash landing on the wheat field. And obviously we'd see General Titus doing his general revolt and getting everyone killed. Even though the rebellion is barely in this movie at all, I might even give the rebellion their own movie where we can see like where they formed, their inciting incident, and maybe what they're standing for, what they want. If we were gonna milk this Rebel Moon franchise in the Zack Snyder universe, this is how I'd have started it up so that we would get the most videos possible and they would be satisfying and meaningful. Diving into that real final pitch. First of all, I'd lose the exposition dump at the beginning of both these movies, and I would minimize our time on Grain World, no more than 8 minutes of it, to establish Korra's new life. Once the Grain World's leader dies, we can still have that panicked meeting with all of the other people trying to figure out what they do, but I'm gonna have them be like a little bit more aggressive. They're gonna snark at Gunner and sort of like blame him for their leader's death. Be like,
you had to open your mouth. You just wanted this trade deal so much. You said you cared about our community, but when it comes down to it, you only care about what you can do.
And while the villagers are kind of like beating down on Gunner, blaming him for what will happen, Korra will step in, because in this moment she's gonna feel like a real empathy for Gunner, because she too has made the wrong call when she thought she was doing the right thing for everybody involved. And this can be how like the Gunner-Korra relationship evolves in a way that's meaningful and has actual connection and chemistry. But Korra's gonna interrupt all this blame game. She's gonna say,
we have to come together, we have to resist. That's the only way we come out of this alive.
Then she's gonna bring up that Gunner has some contacts with the rebels, and can he pass a message on to them asking them for help? Which is what they're gonna do, some kind of like subspace signal or whatever out there into the world instead of going and collecting everyone. Because back here in Grain World, we got work to do. People here are gonna start passively resisting their occupation. They know they can't physically fight and beat the soldiers, but instead they're gonna like let them sleep in or choose to sleep in. They're gonna sabotage some of the grain. They're gonna like trip the soldiers up or give them like the least they have to give them while still not being harmed. Maybe only half the people who could be working on the farming are gonna do that, and the other half are gonna be like secretly training and preparing for the resistance when the whole dreadnought comes back. Honestly, what we're gonna do is look up a couple ways that you can actively resist an occupation. We're gonna toss those in right after Core gives the inspiring speech about resistance and the community sort of like rallies together with a plan. We're gonna cut to the Dreadnought. They're gonna be off looking for rebels doing rebel shit, and then we're gonna witness them capture a smuggler who has insider information about where the rebels might be, and we'll watch him like get tortured and pressed for information. Then we're gonna cut to the rebel force. They're gonna get that distress message from Gunner and add it to their list of potential rabble-rousing options. But right at the time they get this message, they're just about to liberate the mining town that one woman is from, and they have like 3 other must-do things before they can make it to the Grain World. And that's when Nemesis interrupts the group and says they have 4 must-do things before they can get to the Grain World. That's right, guys. I'm putting the whole team in the Rebel Resistance. We're not going to make them separate. They're going to be like generals or important people already connected. But when Nemesis says they've got those 4 stops, the Rebel Alliance is going to argue because, like, the Spider Lady taking children or whatever is a sad thing, but it's not a must-do thing. It won't save as many lives or push their cause forward enough for it to be something they have to do. And Nemesis is going to make it clear that this is why she joined the revolution, and if she's not out there saving the innocent and protecting children, then she's not going to be in it anymore. So the Blood Axes are going to kind of like shoulder shrug and give her a shuttle to go off on this separate mission on her own. And Tarek, who's sort of there observing and overhearing things, is going to go with Nemesis. Also, Tarek is going to have his griffin, so it's going to be like Nemesis, Tarek, and his like bound griffin off on this Spider Lady adventure. Meanwhile, we're going to cut to the Dreadnought, and they have arrived at the planet the smuggler said the rebels were at, and they're doing a scan of the planet, and it's going to show up with 0 life signs. And they're really perplexed because it's showing up like a totally dead world. And one of the guys is going to be like, do you still want us to bomb the ever-living shit out of it? And Atticus is going to throw a huge pissy temper tantrum at the guy asking because, like, how dare he speak out of term? And what is even the fucking point of bombing a dead world? It's just a waste of resources. So he's beating the ever-living tar out of this pilot who dared ask him if they wanted to bomb the planet. And the torture guy is like trembling in his boots because he's totally afraid he's gonna get murdered for this slip up. So he sort of like interrupts the scene with an announcement that he knows where the rebels are gonna be next. And that makes Atticus stop beating his pilot and them all like kind of turn to go to the next location. And from the Dreadnought, we're gonna cut down to Titus, who's actually on that quote-unquote dead world planet underground with like some special shielding that's protecting everyone from being identified. And like the larger life signs like people and stuff, they have to go underground, so there'll be people and animals, and then the shield that they have will hide like plant signs of life or whatever. We cut to Titus, he's sitting next to the king dude in this bunker, and he goes like,
hospitality is my planet's joy and pride, but guests have an onus on them to respect what we offer. The mother world has yet to learn that respect.
Titus is gonna like bow, thank the king for his hospitality to the rebels and like what a help he's been, inspiring speech. Gonna hand the king a note for her in case she comes by this way. He's gonna shuttle off to who knows what. We're gonna cut back to Grain World again, see that rations are getting low. The villagers say this is like common between harvests and they're using it as a way to kind of like starve the enemy. Den, who was the son of the leader who was killed, offers to like go on a hunt to find more food, and he like offers to take the soldiers with him because they quote unquote like must be good hunters and it'll give them something to do to entertain them in their stay. And the soldiers are going to agree to go on this hunt, and during the hunt they're going to use this as a moment to like attack some of the soldiers, turn the herd so that they stampede on them, maybe get them thrown from like their horse things and get one of them to have a broken leg. These kind of like injuries and ways of like accidentally having them wander into trouble and like further incapacitate them and give the villagers more freedom and time away from their oppressors. Then we're going to cut to Nemesis and the Spider Lady. Things can more or less go down the same way they did in the movie, with like 2 major exceptions. It'll be more than just one child that the Spider Lady is hoarding, and Tarek and the Griffin are gonna kind of like use their flying ability to get to the different kids in the webs and stuff. Instead of killing the Spider Lady at the end, she's going to acknowledge their superiority, sort of be like, just go ahead and do it, I have nothing to live for without my children, and I can never have any children on this planet. Which is when Nemesis and Tarek are going to make an offer for her to come fight in the grain world, and then she can live there because all of the air there is good. She'll have a chance at actually reproducing and having a long, large family and possibly a happy life. That's right. We're recruiting this spider lady, and she is going to do some crazy web weaving traps in the next couple of episodes. So excited for her to join this team. Meanwhile, we're back at the Blood Axes. They are dropping off the refugees from the mining town with the king, like so that they can rejoin society and have a normal life if they want to. And the Blood Axes are going to ask where Titus is at. And the king's going to be like,
he couldn't wait for you. He had to go do that weapons run. And he also got a lead on where she might be that he wanted to investigate before she went somewhere else.
So they're like scanning the stars to like sort of get an idea of his trail to follow where he might be going. They kind of know, but they're not 100% certain. And that's when they find out that the Dreadnought is in the same space they think Titus is at. And they're going to have to like rush there and try to save him. So Titus shows up on the planet, and guess what? It's a trap. Atticus is there and he captures him, but instead of like immediately killing him or retreating, Atticus is going to use him as bait to draw the Blood Axes out so he can get all the rebels at once. There's going to be a big fight scene. Darius is going to get killed off. Deborah is going to be devastated, and she's going to be less sure about doing this grain world thing because she knows that's where like the whole Dreadnought is going next. And Titus is going to give an inspiring speech and be like, the whole reason we're even here and resisting is to help people like the people on the grain world. Besides, didn't you say that's where the Scargiver had landed? Isn't it about time that we go check up on her and see if maybe she has changed and is ready to join our cause? If nothing else, maybe we can trade our help in exchange for more information on what happened that day and where she might be now. And Deborah very reluctantly agrees that going to the grain world is the best plan, even if the Dreadnought probably suspects that they'll meet up there again. From there, we'll cut back to grain world, and we're gonna get like a culmination event where the soldiers are fed up with all the different ways that these people are passively resisting their occupation. So they're gonna storm in during dinner time and like barricade all the doors, making everybody stay in place, and then they're gonna like pick the young lady out of the crowd that they plan to like brutalize and assault in front of them to like reassert their dominance and reinforce that the whole town is helpless, whether as a community or a single body. And this is going to lead to Cora, the robot, and the young private resisting this plan, and they're going to have some kind of kick-ass fight scene that ends with all of the occupiers dead, us realizing the robot and the private are on our side, and the girl still being healthy and fine. And at this time where like there's this hopeful, upbeat moment, but it's also tense because we've just witnessed all this violence, Nemesis, the Spider Lady, and Tarek are gonna like open up the doors and be like,
Hey, we're from the Resistance and we're here to help.
and that's going to be the close of Rebel Moon Part 1. And then we're going to move into Rebel Moon Part 2. We're going to open Rebel Moon Part 2 by reviving Atticus Noble. I don't know if I mentioned it, but in that same fight, Darius died, Atticus died too. It would be great if the two of them offed each other, but I don't really care how it happens, just make it look cool. Obviously, Atticus doesn't know that Belisarius' adopted daughter is alive and that she's here, so he can't give her that news, but he can relay that the rebels are still looking for her. So he still has time to capture and destroy them all before they can join forces with her. And Belisarius like puts a lot of emphasis on that and pressure on that, and like, you better or we're all doomed. We're gonna cut to the grain world. They're gonna do some training, some preparation, some working together. So we'll have them like doing some basic fighting stuff. We'll have them like digging in the mines. We're gonna have people working with the Spider Lady and like the webbing and different like tripwire defenses we can do. We're gonna have Nemesis working with like the women and children, showing them different ways they can hide and like sneak attack where people won't be able to detect them or grab them, and that way they can be safe but also know like some last minute defenses they could do. And then we are gonna have a final showdown battle. Cora is not gonna hesitate this time because we're as prepared as we're gonna be, and we do have like a large force. I do think how Cora snuck onto the ship was pretty smart. We're gonna leave that alone. We'll do less time in the tunnels and we'll do more time with Spider Lady and different like traps that she's drawn up, like people tripping on them and dying, or like tripping and getting captured, all of that good stuff. In fact, I think before Cora can do the bell, what's gonna happen is those people who are like sneaking in to get the women and children are gonna trip one of Spider Lady's main traps, and there's gonna be like screams and random shots fired as they try to get out, and that's when Cora's gonna hit the bell and know that negotiations are over and all out war's what's going on now. We're also gonna have the robot involved from the start, so he's gonna be accurately hitting things and doing all that good stuff, and then he'll get a moment with the tank, and Deborah will get a moment to like take the fleet down as they're escape podding out. Everyone is gonna get a moment. Nemesis can still die, but in her scene, instead of like almost barely doing anything, she can like come down from the top of this hall and like be taking people out one at a time, killing them, all that good stuff, and then like a stray shot can get her, and she can keep fighting through this bullet wound, but eventually succumb to blood loss after she's guaranteed the women and children's safety. Spider-Woman gets to live, and after this she's gonna get to have a happy life on this planet, and she's already got like some eggs that she's incubating, and that way they'll have even more protectors in the future because they are one community all working together to like survive and have happy lives and have like a balanced life with nature here in the grain world. At the end, when they're burying their dead and like celebrating their victory or whatever, that's when Titus can come over to Cora and ask for more information about her, and that's when we'll finally get the reveal that she thinks the princess is dead. Titus is convinced the princess is alive. These are the reasons, and we need to get to her and support her if we ever want to throw off the mother world. And from there, we'll know that Cora's joining the resistance, and she is gonna help them find the princess or convince the princess or get the princess to remember who she is in her fight. We're not 100% sure why the princess isn't directly attacking, if she like needs the forces, if she needs to remember, you know, like jumpstart or whatever because of transformative whatever. We are now set up to do that, and we've had like a much more exciting character driven way to get there, I think. So that's what I would do with Rebel Moon Part 1 and Part 2. I still think having a bunch of prequel movies before we went into this Rebel Moon Ultimate Saga would have been the way to go, but I think there's enough personality elements and just who they are now and what they're doing that even without those prequel movies, we'd have something worth talking about. I hope you guys have liked this alternative pitch. I hope you guys have enjoyed my reviews of Rebel Moon Part 1 and Part 2. And let me know in those comments down below. Do you want me to keep talking about these movies? Should I go on to watch the next ones when they come out? Would you like that or not? Give me a yay or a nay. And if you've got no further thoughts on these movies but got this far in the video anyways for some reason, go ahead and leave me a moon emoji in those comments down below. And as always, keep reading.